Welcome back to it's episode 4. It's part 2. Episode 4, part 2 of What Do You Philos? Today, we are continuing our conversation from episode 3, part 1, where we were talking about the 8 types of love. Some would argue that there are even 9, and we did talk about that. We hope that you tuned in for that episode. If you didn't, go back, definitely go back. And don't just go back and listen. I suggest, this is my favorite way of enjoying this podcast, I suggest you go back and watch it on YouTube. Tori has been editing the videos. They look amazing. And the words appear there, even some funny little pop-ups that you might enjoy just to add to your experience when you listen to our podcast. So at the end of our last episode, when we first started this conversation, we asked you, which of these love languages resonates with you the most? Which do you struggle with? Which one feels dry and in need of a little nurturing? What do you need most from others? Where and how does love show up in your life? And that's what we're going to get personal about today in our episode. So just to recap, we're each going to share the 3 types of love that we shared in the last episode to remind us all at the top of this one about the 8 types. So I shared that the Philos, which is part of our podcast name, logo file. Philo means one that loves, likes, or is attracted to. It is from the Greek, meaning philos, loving, friendly, dear, related, which is related to feeling, to love. And the second one is eros, which is a type of love that means intense, passionate, often considered dangerous or irrational, that focuses on physical desire. It's physical love or sexual desire. Eros is a type of love that involves passion, lust, and/or romance. Mom, which ones did you talk about in the last episode?
So I talked about pragma, the mature, practical, enduring form of love, typical of commitments. It's based on logic. It's not based on feelings. Deep commitment over time, commonly found in long-term relationships and marriage. Agape was my next one. The highest form of love, some might argue with that, defined as unconditional and volitional. It is not driven by emotion, deliberate choice to seek the welfare of others without any hope of reciprocity, without any recompense. It represents God's love, demonstrated by prioritizing others, forgiving enemies, and having no expectation of anything in return. My last one was Philotosha or Philotia. I think there's 2 pronunciations. Derived from the Greek word, it refers to self-love, the love of oneself. It is one of the distinct types in ancient Greek philosophy representing a necessary, healthy relationship with one's own self. Self-compassion. So those were my 3. How about you, Tori?
My words. The first one was storge, which is a natural, effortless affection rooted in deep friendship, long-term familiarity, and the stable bond often found between family members or lifelong companions. And then there's ludus, which is a playful, uncommitted style of love that prioritizes fun, flirtation, and the thrill of the chase over emotional depth and long-term intimacy. And then there's mania, which is an intense, obsessive, and possessive form of love characterized by extreme emotional highs and lows, often driven by insecurity and a deep need for constant reassurance from a partner. That's mania towards a person. You can have mania towards objects. I think all of these you can have towards anything. It's not just love between people. But then there's also the bonus word, meraki, which is the 9th. And that refers to the soul creativity or the love you put into something that you're doing, like the food you're making, the art you're creating, anything that you're doing, the soul that you leave behind. That is known as Meraki.
Which were the ones that resonated the most with you of the 9, I guess, that we've explored?
So I went to sit down with all of these words, and the first one that popped out to me was Eros, just because I read a book last year called Dark Eros by Thomas More, and it was a really fascinating look, a very, for me, refreshing look at the darker side of some of human nature. The book is a psychological exploration of the darker side of love, focusing on the sadomasochism found in the fiction writing of Marquis de Sade, whose name we actually derive the term sadism from, as in masochism, sadism, BDSM. Marquis de Sade was a very interesting character from the 1700s. And he was a Frenchman. He was like an upper class, but he was very nefarious in his activities. And he actually was in and out of jail most of his life for doing really debaucherous things. And while he was in jail, he wrote 120 Days in Sodom, which is a book that's quite vile, you could say. It's a peek into a dark mind.
Do you think he got the name Sodom from the biblical place? Like
Yes,
Sodom and Gomorrah?
correct.
Oh, okay. Keep going.
He also wrote Justine and a book called Juliet, and I've peeked. I haven't read through these, but I have peeked at them, and they're. I mean, it's the mind of sadism, basically. It's the original mind of sadism. So you can imagine. But this book that I read that actually really just opened up my mind and was really refreshing perspective, Dark Arrows. It's like a creative open mind exploration of these darker parts, separate from pathology and more just human nature. In this book, Moore argues that the violent and perverse imagery found in Marquis de Sade's work should not be dismissed simply as deviance, but rather viewed as like a profound, somewhat disturbing expression of the soul's depth. He suggests that the sadic impulse is a fundamental part of the human psyche that seeks to break through the superficiality of modern life, demanding a confrontation with power, control, and the inherent cruelty that exists alongside love.
I loved what you said about break through the superficiality of this life and the darker side that you that kind of juxtapose. It's like a juxtaposition between the more romantic, lovey-dovey, roses and hearts side of love, which, the opposite of that, I guess it's not a juxtaposition but more a contrast, uh that sometimes love is painful and hurtful, and that exists in us. It exists in us.
There's something in human nature that maybe not everyone, but on a spectrum, inside human nature is a love to cause pain. There is a love to receive pain, and there is a love to destruct and destroy. And so this is where Eros took me. It took me into the dark Eros part. This book, if you're curious for like a different perspective on the darker parts of humanity, I highly recommend Dark Eros as like an introduction into Marquis de Sade's work. Obviously, Sade's work is much more graphic. Dark Eros is not graphic. It's just an exploration of Marquis de Sade as a man and his writings. That's my take on Eros.
It sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like that book influenced you to take a broader, maybe a opposite perspective of some of the things that we've always believed to be true, or the things we choose to focus on more with regards to Eros.
Yeah. Because there's like, I feel like each one of these words has a spectrum. There's light, fluffy, roses, arrows. Let's go to the movies and have a romantic date. And then there's the dark arrows where the handcuffs come out and the ball and chain. And all of that is still in this word, love, eros. So it just, for me, it just expands my understanding of the complexities of love.
It's a good place to do that. It's a good place to do that. Maybe I love what you said about all of these words having a spectrum. And we could think about maybe there's various spectrums of which how much we're exercising them in our own lives, or how much we are putting time and energy into them, how much is being sucked out of us too is a spectrum, but also our understanding of them is a spectrum. Like, and it sounds like dark, you called the book was dark, you said the book was called Dark Arrows. It sounds
Correct.
like that one is something that all of us could expand our understanding on the spectrum. Like there's this side, which is the side that's romanticized in movies and television and even in our own lives. And then there's this side that is still realistic. It's still something that so many, maybe people prefer to do behind closed doors, or maybe as a society, Americans. I don't know. What's your take on that? Because you mentioned this guy, Marquis de Sade, was French.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe culturally, the French, well, for sure, they have a very different perspective about nudity and sexuality and bodies and stuff. So I'm sure that's part of it too. It's cultural.
That's a really good point. And that makes me want to research who else influenced, because I know Marquis de Sade is not the only influencer in this darker pathological side of the human psyche that Carl Jung has explored, Freud talks about. But those are pathologizing.
Pathologizing?
Those are pathologizing this darker, quote unquote, evil. So, sis, how you and I grew up hearing about the nefarious, sadistic kinds of things, we were told these are evil, sinful things. But now we're talking and we're bringing in a perspective where these things are actually connected to a word that's connected to love. And these things are actually in human nature.
When you say that, it makes me think of Sodom. The story, or the part of the title of Marquis de Sade's work was 120 Days in Sodom. And for any Christian or anybody who studied the scriptures, Sodom and Gomorrah was like this warning, right? This tale of caution, and this was the seat of evil. And so for Christians, Sodom conjures this idea of all the things we absolutely should never partake of or ever do, or this is the example of evil, you know, the worst parts of human nature.
Right.
And you're right. Reading something like Dark Arrows, or understanding this person and how they are exploring this other side of Eros, and then connecting it to Sodom, makes us go, oh, you're right. There is another side to this kind of love.
Yeah, and for me personally, I'm not a Christian, though I was raised as one, though I'm here with one, so belovedly my mother. I have taken a lot of time to deconstruct the things that I was raised on, including a lot of the Christian paradigms, and I'll bring it up. I'll bring another non-Christian perspective if we get into agape, but my paradigm doesn't include evil or sin or heaven or hell. I'm you could maybe call me agnostic. I have in my life found a lot of peace in the unknown and not having anything solid like the truth of the Bible or something so solid as heaven and hell. These things that they're just stories, there's no proof. So the work that I've been doing is just finding peace in the not knowing and exploring all of the spectrums of human nature, including these kinds of loves. So
Tori, so interesting, fascinating. And I love how you are getting a deeper and deeper and deeper perspective, not just taking it on surface level, but going deeper and deeper. And it's hugely, I see it in every area of your life. So it doesn't surprise me at all, but it's very refreshing, and it does take us
Yeah.
to another level. When you were talking about the spectrum of love and how these different manifestations of love, from ones that would be highly prized by a Christian to those that would be shocking, like Gomorrah, I was thinking about Shakespeare. And I mean, if we extracted from Shakespeare, the dark side of love, I don't think there would be much left of his writing, because he was very skilled at showing, well, I don't know if we want to call it the dark side of human nature, but the other side, the unacceptable side, the side that stays in the dark, the side that you can go to jail for. You know what I'm saying?
mm-hmm,
Yeah, that
Does that make
drives us
sense?
to irrational behaviors. That
mm-hmm,
drives us
Yeah,
to do things that someone in their right mind, quote unquote, their right mind, would have the self will not to do. But I maybe Shakespeare's trying to explore how we're not always in our right mind,
for
and
sure.
we love to a degree that drives us to these places.
Yeah.
maybe
That's how
Shakespeare was,
powerful love is.
yeah, like maybe more of the mania was in Shakespeare, that obsessive drive that kind of leads us to the darker
Yes.
things. I feel like mania
Jealousy.
and eros are they get fun together. The mania,
Really.
eros, and ludus, like they're
Yeah,
all
I was just
having
gonna
an
say,
orgy,
Ludus wants to play. Yeah, yeah.
and that's human nature.
Mm,
Who wants to
that's
share
the
next?
spectrum. Why don't you go next, Mama?
Well, so what I did is I went into a swirly that has taken me 71 years to construct. So when I looked at all the words and where I am in this progression, I was thinking about what Tevye said, and related to Hava and the developmental stages that she has and where she's at. It's not appropriate to expect agape from her. It's not appropriate. She's in ludus, right? And
Hmm.
that's where she's supposed to be, and it will grow from there. Um, but I just got really kind of caught up in the decades of my life and what loves were prominent in those decades. So, in the first decade, I think it was mostly agape from my family. Storge, am I saying that right? Storge?
I I do believe it's Storgy. I could be
Storge.
wrong.
Okay. Storge from my family. Ludus in the playful aspect, like thinking about the way that I was raised. I never remember anybody saying anything about germs. Nobody was worried about that. I could go outside and play. I could dig in the dirt. I could take Uncle Dale's fish apart. I could take a piece of equipment apart. Nobody cared what I did. They just let me play.
Mhm.
They just thought it was, she's doing what she's supposed to be doing. And that was just a marvelous thing for me. My second decade, more agape, um, more storge, ludus, philia, giving and receiving more reciprocity with friendships. And then I would say began to experience erotic love and some mania, like fixation on different people. Like I would just stalk them, drive my bike around their house. Yeah, that started before I was even 20. In the third
When they're
decade,
when they're done that.
can anybody relate? Um, third decade. So kind of shifting away from storge to more philia. Philia. Am I saying it right? Philia?
Philos. Are you thinking of Philotia?
No, phileo. Phileo?
Philautia?
Which
No.
one are you thinking of?
The one that rhymes with Philadelphia. Philea.
Philos.
Philos. Philos. Okay. More of that. And then into still more playfulness, ludus, and eros. The fourth decade, so that would be 30s, began our family. Heavy emphasis on pragma, storge, eros, and agape, with a full dose of exhaustion, maintaining philia, friend love, friendships. Fifth decade, same as the 30s, steady on with the friendships. The sixth decade, I would say ludus was on the wane. The playfulness was kind of like, I don't know, overtaken. Storge, pragma, eros, not as prominent. Agape continuing to cover a multitude of mistakes. Philia still a priority. And then in the sixth decade, the first entry of Philatia. Philatia. I looked it up.
Philotia.
Philatia. And that was that body self-love was brought on by a body breakdown, which almost took my life. So that was really a latecomer to the scene. Unfortunately, did not have a lot of mentoring in that or understanding of that. Seventh decade, ludus, a distant memory. Storge, pragma, thankfully agape. Philotia on the rise, gaining strength. I got sober. That was an act of self-love and understanding for me for sustainability. Friendship, love, still a priority. Now in the eighth decade. So the eighth decade, my current season, more storge, pragma, literally praying daily for more agape. Infusions in this season of caregiving. I'm creating opportunities to play. So Merake, is that how you say that last one, Tev or
Yeah.
Tori? Merake. Um, writing, gardening, pottery, creating something, even food, a meal, more self-love. I joined Al-Anon in this decade, a recovery a recovery community, and friendship still a steady priority. So my takeaways are there's an ebb and flow to the loves in our life, and one might be very, very prominent in one season, and for me, not in another season. Some are very, very steady. I would say the friend love is very, very steady. Agape is foundational in my life. Pragma, it's a great car to ride in. It's just, it's just a steady traveler. You're not going to be going off the road. I mean, Ludus is great. That kind of stuff is fantastic. Who would even argue with it? But it can take the car right up the road with the family in the car. I know, trust me, I know this. Yeah. And more self-love, diving deeper into that and, growing that form of love in this season of my life. So,
Mom, you talked a lot about storge,
Georgie.
the love of friendships. And I wondered, I mean, as someone Tori and I both witnessed, but our listeners have not, and some of them are your friends. I wonder if there's a season of your life or a few times in your life that you feel, because you're an only child also, that's a factor too in this, right? That you didn't grow up with siblings per se, like Tori
Right.
and I. And so your friendships are the friendships that are basically in many ways like siblings. So I
So true.
wonder if there's a time um or an anecdote to friends, one of the more memorable moments of your life with regards to
Mm,
the storge love.
mm. So I think it's a little bit hard for me to discern the difference between um, the friend love, phileo, and storge.
Oh, okay.
So
One
I
is
think I would.
affectionate love, and one is more familial. Okay, so maybe I mentioned the wrong love. That could have happened. I
Well,
guess what I
I
mean
think you make
is
a good
your
point, Ted.
philia, your brotherly, your friendship love.
Yeah.
Is there
Which
a moment in your life when that love was especially powerful or poignant for you?
I could not identify one single time, but there have been thousands. There have been thousands of times when without the friendships, the long-term friendships, I I don't think it's overestimating or exaggerating to say I would have lost my mind. I would have lost my mind. My friends came
And
alongside and just brought perspective. They let me bounce things off of them. They just knew I was as crazy as a loon and I had all these things going on, and they just accepted it and became a sounding board for me and rescued me many times with what I consider unconditional love, because there's some friends that know everything. They know everything and they're still there.
That's
you know,
Philos. That's
yeah,
Philos and Pragma having friend babies together.
All right. Well, it's good. Those are good babies.
I guess I'm thinking a lot about philia because, well, 15 years ago, I chose to move abroad, and that radically changed friends that I thought I would have for
Mm,
life.
mm,
And even some friends who stayed with me for many years, and even after 7 or 8 years of being abroad, those friendships dissolved.
mm,
And so, and the nature of working in an international school is a nature of transition. It's the nature of coming and going. And so, in my 40s, with a daughter, trying to trying to invest, trying to pour into, trying to be a sounding board, another perspective to a friend that I believe or want or connect with in some way and want the longevity of a relationship, it looks very, very different in my life.
mm.
Very, very different. And it is still a need. I'm so thankful that I married my best friend because in many ways I have that anchor. I have that friend in Edwin, but friendships are challenging for me. They
Mm,
are they're just difficult, not because I'm surrounded by difficult people, but because of the nature of where I live and another
yeah.
country with a different language.
Mm,
And I think, you know, Tori, you just said these two different loves having a baby. It kind of feels a little bit like that in my case because my sisters are the constant. They're the
Mm.
ones that have remained. And maybe we don't talk every day. And I would say the same is true for you too, Mom, that we have
Oh, yeah.
a really beautiful friendship that is
Yeah.
has that foundation of family. That's how it started. And then by choice over the years, we've built this friendship and we keep it.
Yeah.
And so, but school friendships, I have a very good friend here, but we don't talk every day. We can be authentic, we can be vulnerable. There's no false pretenses. I don't even have to like warm the water with her. I can just dive right into the tough stuff, thankfully.
Mm.
But um, I don't know if I ever decided to move back, how that relationship would change. Just like when I moved away, my relationships changed. So
Mm.
this is a challenging type of love in the season. And I've heard other adults my age say similar things, that making friends at our age is hard. If you've had this friend since your 20s, and you're still friends in your 50s or your 60s, there's a good chance they're going to stay in your life. Um,
Right.
but that has not been the case for me. Uh, there's just I mean, I would love to say even the people I've known since my teens they're still my friends. We have each other's number, but how deep is that friendship? How connected on a regular basis are we? It's just it's quite minimal, and it's
Wow.
challenging. It's challenging.
Sissy, I can still relate to this challenge because philia, brotherly love, friendship, it's really tricky for me too. I think you and I are really privileged because we have siblings that we like and siblings that we get along with. That is rare, I think. Um, but I was thinking, I was actually, all week actually has been a struggle for me with brotherly love because not to be like a huge downer, but I haven't had a friend, like a Philos friend, um, in 4 years. It's been 4 years. And I've taken a lot of time to be alone and do some healing. But this year I'm coming back out and I'm poking my head out and I'm getting into groups and I've made some friends. And Tevye, you said it's not because you don't like people, it's just hard because of where you are. My problem is I don't like people.
Oh, so refreshingly honest.
Mm. Yeah.
Being a friend to flawed people is really hard. And I think I've taken a lot of that. If there's like a container or an energy bucket of that kind of love, I think I've just whipped it all and turned it all back around to me into that I want to say fellatio, and I'm pretty sure that's a sexual term, but it's self love. um, but yeah, so now I'm in a season of my life where I'm trying to make some friends because though I do believe hard is just a frame of mind, it is hard to make friends beyond a certain point,
Yes.
beyond a certain age.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to do it, and I've been trying to break the habits that lead to me just kind of avoiding people altogether because they're quote unquote hard to love. Um, because I know that all of this is connected. And if it's hard for me to love someone else, then it's probably hard for me to love myself also. Um, so I can totally relate to Philo's struggles.
The other difficulty, and Mom, it would be interesting to hear you talk about this, but the other difficulty that I have is this:
The phone.
the phone. I'm from a generation where when we were kids, we would have friends over and we would play for hours making mud cake, mud pies in the yard, kind of like what you were talking about, Mom, taking stuff apart. But now that we're adults, and especially because I have a young child at home, I do not have the bandwidth to catch up with somebody this way. I just don't. And so in some ways, I think I have not burned bridges, but just sort of been like sent signals that she's busy, because people will
Mhm.
message me and unless you're at my door, or you're a family member,
Mhm.
my priority is the 3-year-old running
Mhm.
ludus circles around me, wanting to play hide and seek, and the emotional breakdown that happens when I say no, or, like we have to go do this thing. So maybe it's the phase, maybe it's the
Mhm.
phone, maybe it's my nature of wanting to, not doing surface very well. I
Mm.
Yeah.
can't do the surface
Mhm.
conversations super, super well. It's almost like small talk is not part of my rep. I can, of course I can. We all can do small talk, but
That's like
it's
the
not satisfying
pragma.
to
That
me.
small talk is pragma love for you. It's a
Yes,
chore.
yeah,
Mhm. Yeah.
thank you. Chore is an excellent word for that.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't like you or that I don't want to get to know you. It's just that, like, let's talk about how today was a real, or get down to the nitty gritty
Yeah.
of something else, something that's more connecting and worthwhile.
I just feel like this is a great time to plug Alcoholics Anonymous or any other kind of support group, because that is a great way to bond over your mutual trauma.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. I just went to a meeting with my Al-Anon group because we're planning a retreat. And we went to New Earth and we just hung out and we laughed and got to know each other around a
Mm.
shared, like you said, Tori, a shared experience. And when I reflect back on the friends that I still have, we did things together like creative light theater. We spent I think hundreds of hours writing and acting in those dramas. And we knew each other. We knew the rhythm of our lives. We knew each other's kids. We knew each other's husbands. Like we saw what we were all up against, like
Yeah, and you
Such-
weren't doing that with a phone in your hand.
no.
So there's a totally different level of connection. You know, trying to get to know somebody sounds delightful. Getting to know another group of people, also sitting around at the table, have over a meal, it sounds delightful. But as soon as this comes out, I don't want to be there anymore, because, or some people haven't exercised that muscle to actually reciprocate.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? What are you interested? So, like, I just feel like sometimes the phone has diminished our ability to connect with one another in this beautiful friendship kind of way. And then once you reach a certain age, it's not that you're past that. It's not impossible to make friends. It's just a lot harder.
It's
It's
tricky.
just a lot more
And
difficult.
I think the tricky thing for me about the phone too is it's a faux connection. I'm not
Ooh,
saying you can't have a real connection by phone because I feel like when I call you and you and Hava and I are together, that's real.
yeah,
It's real. But we have a relationship based on, you know, family and doing things together. But if I'm trying to build a relationship around this,
yeah,
it's a poor substitute for shared life experiences, like going somewhere, doing something, being involved in a project, or um, being even part of a home group or a recovery group, like
100%.
Tori said.
Okay, I just got
100%.
to argue here because my groups are virtual. It's all technology. It's all on the phone. We can call each other.
Mm,
We're on video like we're on with each other right now. So I got to argue that there's value here. And I understand what you guys are saying about the phone, and you guys are noticing a difference between the kind of love that's built when you are writing together in the same room and putting on costumes and playing in that ludus kind of love. And then
Yeah.
the pragma Philos that's built from that ludus, but
Yeah.
I think there's also pragma that and Philos that can be built um, other routes than in person, because I'm
Do you,
doing that in my life right now.
Yeah.
do you think the common thread could be the shared experience part? Whatever you're doing virtually with these people that you are meeting virtually, you still have this, you still know already what you have in common rather than building the commonality face to face, like with the theater.
For sure. I think that's a really good point, because I think the
Yeah.
same thing could be said for people in gamer communities where they are
Yes.
bonding over video games and it's
Yeah.
all virtual. And those connections are real.
They
Those
are
connections
real.
are pragma. They go for decades.
Yeah. Yeah. I have heard great stories of people showing up at each other's doors after 10 years of only playing online together.
Wow.
I think
Wow.
I think the bonding over the same thing is a really important key, because if you were to go on a speed dating and you have to bond with someone out of thin air within a certain amount of time, you're not going to you maybe not just you're maybe not. But if you like find a support group or a hobby or some kind of, if your style is in person, find an in person hobby. Like, mom, I know you've got pottery, and that's a huge heart filler for you. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, I'm curious if I can ask you guys a question. Do you think that there is a hierarchy of these words of love? Because I'll just say, in the descriptions, I noticed that agape was being thrown as the highest form of love. And my little um, anti-patriarchal soul was questioning, why is there a hierarchy in love? Why is there a hierarchy in love? Why are we calling agape, sacrificial, unconditional love the highest form? And I asked the AI bots, and they let me know that this claim that agape is the highest form is highly Christian, and it's also influenced by the Greeks. Um, so I'm just curious what you guys think about that.
Well,
Uh,
I'm sure, Mom, you have something, but the one thing that I was going to say, because one of the questions that we've put out there is like, which is the one that you struggle with the most? And as a
Yeah.
parent, the agape versus the self-love, the caring for myself, is where I find the most contention in my life. And I think it comes from this belief that if I show agape love to my child, I am being the best kind of mother that I possibly can be. Unconditional love. And actually, I take exception to the unconditional part, right? Like there's tough love that's still, there's
Mhm.
still some like, you got to do this. I'm going to support you.
Mhm.
That is an important kind of love that might seem a little less conditional or less unconditional. But
mhm.
I would argue
Mhm.
personally, from my experience, if I don't take care of myself, I'm not in a
Right.
position to be the best kind of mom that I could be to her.
Right.
So I I'm glad to hear that this is an ideal that was put out there, and that it's arguable. Not everything is arguable, but just that maybe this idea came from somewhere and it's okay that I don't agree with it, because now that I
Mhm.
know how important self-love is and self-compassion, self-care, um, I know that I can actually be a better mom, a better partner,
Mhm.
even. Because if I haven't slept even over a sustained period of time, if I haven't slept well, it's not pretty,
Mhm.
people. It's just not. It's not pretty for me. It's not pretty for my husband. It's not pretty for our dogs or our daughter or our house or my students. So that part, I just feel like in so many ways, it needs to be moved up on the list. Self care, self compassion. And maybe we do need to become a little bit more focused on, have I paid my bills? Have I washed my body? Have I gotten my prescription refilled so that I can see better, after a year? Have I given myself a little treat, double stuffed Oreos this afternoon, so that I can feel good about that stressful test I just administered? Like, I don't know. I would argue that agape isn't achievable, because unconditional isn't exactly like totally possible, but also that there has to be some part of like, it starts here before I can do for others. What's your take, Mom?
Well, I think you make an excellent point. And I never had really examined the priority or the hierarchy, as Tori said, but it really took me into trying to put into words and reflecting on this, which is super important. So what I want to say, Tev, about your tension between self-love and unconditional love, partly because you were raised a Christian, um, is there's a huge misunderstanding that Jesus didn't have boundaries. That is really ridiculous. He had very strong
That's true. He
boundaries.
did have boundaries.
When I
Yeah,
say
that's true.
boundaries, I mean he did. When I say boundaries, I mean he was taking care of himself. Yes, he was obviously being the Son of God and being perfect and healing people, raising them from the dead. But in the midst of that, he withdrew to pray or to sleep and
Mhm.
rest or to let the disciples go wandering off to wherever. Or he took himself to a Samaritan town where he knew his disciples wouldn't follow him. So he had boundaries for sure. And then when we think about this, the maxim, love your neighbor as yourself, that's foundational. You love your neighbor, let alone your family, your kids, everyone else, as yourself. You have to love
That's
yourself.
true.
So I remember listening to Brene Brown, and she was talking about love and self-love, and using the example of a young mom who was addicted and had a baby. And the mom was just crying out and just so full of grief because she loved this little baby so much, and she was losing the baby. The baby's going to be taken away. But
Mm.
Brene made the point, the reality is the mom cannot love the baby more than she loves herself. It goes right along with that motto, love your neighbor as yourself. In the same way that you love yourself, you love your neighbor. You can't love your neighbor more. And that's not what we're supposed to be doing. It's supposed to be a healthy, manageable, sustainable flow. So
Mm.
the takeaway for this mom is you got to get healthy, and then you can love your baby the way that you want to. You can be the mom that you want to be. So does that make
So
sense?
to me, that's telling me, yeah, it makes sense. To me, that's telling me that self-love is more, I mean, okay, maybe not importance, but like priority, that's the same thing.
Yeah.
You can't have Eros, you can't have Ludus, you can't have Philos, you can't have agape without I don't even want to say it because I don't know how to pronounce it, and I'm just going to say something inappropriate. But the self of
Philosha,
love.
the self-love.
Philatia.
Yeah, the
Philatia.
other thing I think about is, Hala's watching me. She's watching me.
Yeah.
And if she thinks the self-sacrificing kind of love is the best love, then she's going to go through life thinking that's how she gets approval or she gets love. It's a performative kind of love. And I want to model for her the importance of knowing yourself, the importance of loving yourself, being gracious with yourself, having a growth mindset. It's okay to make mistakes. That's how we learn. I want her to go through life knowing that maybe the first time she tries something, it isn't going to be perfect, and that's okay. She can still make mistakes. She can still try again. Things that are related to showing herself the kind of compassion and having a mentality around growth and valuing authenticity and being true to herself rather than going with the flow, saying yes to people just because she thinks it's the right thing to do. All of
Mm.
those things for me on my radar kind of just fall into the I'm going to just perform and self-sacrifice, and this is the right thing to do. This is the best way to show love or to be included or to with others rather than truly saying, you know what, I'm not gonna go to that thing because I've had a long week already and I need to rest or I need to take care of some other things. Just really trying to be a good example of what it means to have compassion and self-love for myself, treat myself. It's okay to treat myself. I worked hard.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's sustainable. And when I read my list, I didn't get to the, I'm just going to say, Philotia until I nearly died. Self-care was not on my radar. And still I'm, just nibbling away at it, but I'm getting a lot better. But you're so ahead, Deb, you're so ahead. Do it now. Yeah, definitely.
In my thinking about the hierarchy of these words, I went to the underdog, the number 9, the one that's barely on the list, Meraki, and I just thought, if a human life expression existence had only Meraki kind of love, so their soul was left behind and everything that they created, and that was the only kind of love. They didn't have Philos love. They didn't have Storge love. They didn't have family love. They just put all the love in their life into the steps they took, the things they created, whatever they made. Is that a life that's still, quote unquote, valuable? Is that still a life worth living? Because in the hierarchy, agape is the greatest. So if you're all about agape in your life, that's the greatest life you could live. But I argue against that. I think value can be found in the spectrum of all these things, all these words. And I think there's even more words yet to be found. So those are my thoughts on all of these love words. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we get out of here?
I have a few words from other languages that I thought we could look at to see if we've ever felt this way.
Okay,
Okay.
let's do it.
Okay. Okay. Just to end on a lighter note, we've really kind of like,
Yeah.
okay, let's see. Love words from other languages. Our first one, it's a mouthful.
Whoa.
Mamilapi na tapai.
Oh.
Mami
Mamila
Mamilapi
Pina
na tapai.
Wahai na
Mami
Na
lape.
tapai.
Lapapai. Mami
This
lape.
Yeah,
is the love that you have for all of the mammals, all of the
Oh.
hippopotamuses, and
Oh.
this
I
is this
love
is
that.
mammal love.
Oh, there should be a word for that. This comes from a language called the Yaghan, if I'm saying it right, an indigenous group called Tierra del Fuego. The wordless look shared between two people who
Mm.
both want something, but neither will initiate.
Whoa.
Ooh,
Mm. Have you
oh
ever felt this
goodness.
way?
That is a look of longing, but
Yeah,
there's no
desire,
action behind it.
right? Okay, giggle. This is a cute word, giggle.
Eagle.
Do you want to, do we have a
Eagle.
guess for the kind of love this is?
Eagle. Oh, it's a type of love. Okay, so
It's a feeling. It's a feeling of love.
okay, it's an effervescent joy that bubbles right out of the person's mouth and nose.
And
Like when you
nose.
snot, when you laugh too hard.
It can be. It's a giggle.
Yeah,
It's a giggle.
it's
Give
a
me clue.
giggle. This is a Filipino or Tagalog word. It means the overwhelming urge to squeeze or pinch someone you find unbearably cute or
Oh,
lovable.
I do this to my
Oh,
nieces all the
Yes,
time.
yes.
it's
Oh
a
my
real
goodness.
thing.
It's a real feeling. I
It's
have
a
felt
real
this
thing.
way. Yeah, yeah.
Ego.
Okay. This one is um Yaaburni. 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 I think
Yeah,
we put the
burning.
emphasis. Yeah.
Abern.
Sorry if this is from a language that you speak and we're just butchering the
We're
pronunciation. We
not
apologize in
professionals
advance.
here.
No, we're not here. We did ask for this. I asked for the pronunciation because I knew. Okay. This is Arabic. Literally, may you bury me, meaning I love you so much. I hope
Oh,
I die before you, so I
Oh,
never have to live without you.
oh my goodness.
Oh,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
I
hmm.
think this is probably a sentiment that you feel after many, many, many decades of marriage. Or it could be
Mm,
friendship too.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
wonder. I wonder if there's an opposite to this. That like, may I live longer than you.
You need to get the hell out of here.
Oh,
I will bury you.
Yeah.
Okay, just three more.
Okay.
Philotimo. Philotimo. Philotimo is
mm,
Greek. It's an untranslatable sense of honor, love, and duty towards the people you belong to. In Greek, it's considered one of the highest Greek virtues. This kind of made me
I
feel of patriotism, how there's some people who feel so loyal to their nation.
I feel this for
Sense
my
of
mm.
family.
duty.
I feel this especially for my
Oh,
father, and an untranslatable sense of honor. It's like there's no sense or rhyme or reason to it. It's just there no matter how much pain
Mm.
is in the relationship, that honor
mhm,
and duty is there.
Wow.
mhm. Yeah.
Hmm.
Wow.
Good. Okay. I really love this one.
Oh, I love
Compersion.
this one. This is my
You know the meaning?
favorite. Yes, I
What is the
do.
Tell us, tell
What
us,
is
tell us.
It's the opposite of jealousy. It's the joy you feel watching someone you love experience happiness, even if you're not a part of
mm.
it.
Mhm.
Oh,
Compersion, the opposite of jealousy.
Compersion. Love that. Love
my
that.
goodness. It's beautiful.
I have felt that way. I have felt that way. Like if you see somebody at their best
Yeah.
playing a game
Hmm.
they love, or I
Hmm.
imagine mom when you've watched Livy playing
Yep.
volleyball, you know
Yep.
she's just having the time of her life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or
That's it. You're right.
Renee when she's acting on stage.
Yes.
It's just,
Yes.
she's doing something she loves and just feel so joyful watching them. Mm.
Well, and so thankful that I don't have to direct or I mean, she's doing something that I enjoy, but I don't have to do it.
Okay, last one. Sobremesa. This is a Spanish word. Sobremesa. It's the time spent lingering at the table after a
Mm.
meal, just talking and being
Oh,
together. The meal's over,
oh
but
my
nobody
God.
wants to leave.
The
Hmm.
table is in the word sobre. So what does sobre mean?
Yeah. Over,
Time? Over.
over.
Wow.
Sobre, on top of. Sobre.
Oh.
Mm. It's
Hmm.
the love over the table.
Yeah.
I like
Wow.
Yeah,
that
and
one.
so
Beautiful.
many, I mean, in the Panamanian culture, they do it. I know we've witnessed this in Mexico and we've traveled. It's just a beautiful, yeah, people are it's just a connection. It's just connection.
Well, folks, that is our personal deep dive into some of these words. We could probably keep going on for a while, but we will button it up here and just leave you with the contemplation about the hierarchy of love. And if a life was only lived with Meraki love, is that a valuable life? Be sure to follow us on Instagram. We're getting going at the Logo File Pod. And you can also email us if you want to just say, hey, you can let us know anything you feel that is on your heart in response to any of our episodes. Our email address is at thelogofilepod@gmail.com. And definitely subscribe to us because we've got some new episodes coming. And we even have a guest on the schedule. And I'm really, really, really excited about this guest. We're hoping to hear about their experience bridging cultures. So, bridging cultures through language, the power of language. So, stay with us, you guys. Follow, like, tell your friends. Thanks for being here.
Don't forget, say what you mean.
Mean what you say.
And don't be mean when you say it. Bye.
Bye.